The first hour of the Braden Surprenant Show. Just finished up the roundtable. Thanks again for all of you guys for tuning into that. We really appreciate it. As I know we had some little bit of difficulties at the beginning. We had everything running. First roundtable for us. It was a good time talking with Ben and Woods and Paul and Scraby and Crisello. And it's a lot easier to do those roundtables when the Padres are kicking ass and doing exactly what Jackson Merrill said he wants to do. And beat everybody's ass. That's what they did for the first 7 games of the season. Padres are 7-0 and off to the best start in franchise history, but also one of the best starts in Major League Baseball. They're one of 2 teams left undefeated. And I mentioned before, and I'll say it again, you don't need to worry about the Los Angeles Dodgers. And people are getting upset, watching them walk it off yesterday on Shohei Ohtani bobblehead night. Yeah, we'll talk more about, what the kind of start that the Padres and Dodgers have had to start the season later on the show. But you couldn't have asked for a better start for the San Diego Padres. I've said that the last 4 or 5 days, just because of where they're at right now in the standings. And we've talked about how important it is to get off to a good start. I tweeted it out yesterday, and Kevin Acee mentioned it in his article, and people that can do math that are probably doing it as the season has started. If the Padres play 500 ball the rest of the way, they'll have 85 wins. They'll have 85 wins. That's pretty close to a opportunity to be in the postseason. They're 7-0 right now. They're a half game out of first place. I mean, really the only reason why they're out of first place is because the Dodgers played 2 extra games in Japan and are ahead of the curve. They have played 1 extra game than the San Diego Padres have had. But again, if the Padres go 500 the rest of the way, they'll have 85 wins. 85 is going to be borderline making the playoffs. So I'm not saying time to chill now, time to relax. That's not the case. But it just gives you a perspective. Instead of those years where you get off to poor starts and you're trying to make up all this ground, you got to play at a 600. You got to play at a 600 clip or 650 clip or even a 700 clip to finish the season. You now don't have to do that as long as you continue to take care of business and try to take 2 out of 3. I mean, now the goal is just 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3. On the roundtable, Ben asked, when do you think the next loss will be for the Padres? I honestly think it's tomorrow. Their first loss. I'm not saying they lose tomorrow, but I'm saying if I had to pick the first time that they lose, it will probably be the more likelihood it will be tomorrow, just based on the pitching matchup. It's opening day for the Cubs, right? So I can see it happening. But at this point, if you could take care of business at home, which 7-0 at home is great. That's something the Padres have not done in a long time. Playing at home has always been a problem for them. But a 7-0 start at home, try to take 2 out of 3 on the road, try to play 500 ball on the road, they're going to be a playoff team the way they're able to play. And there's a lot of things that you could point out to of why they're going to be able to keep this up. I think number 1 is pitching. Starting pitching for the Padres has been great. Pitching in general for the Padres has been great. They've allowed a grand total of 11 runs through 7 games. 11 runs through 7 games. That is the lowest amount out of any team in Major League Baseball. They've allowed the least amount of runs in all of baseball with 11. The next on the list is Tampa. Tampa's allowed 13 runs in their 6 games. Padres have played they've played an extra game than most of the teams at the top of this list. The Giants have allowed 16 runs. They've only played 6 games. Philadelphia has allowed 16 runs. They've played 5 games. Padres pitching has been exceptional. And when you got good pitching and you're playing in a place like Petco Park, you're going to be good. And you're going to be consistently good throughout the year. You're going to be a good baseball team. The other thing is the approaches at the plate have been awesome too. We talked about this on the roundtable, but we're going to mention it in the 12 o'clock hour about how Fernando has been so locked in at the plate. And we've talked about him swinging the bat, but also his patience has been awesome. And I don't know if that's because he's batting leadoff more consistently where he understands he's trying to find ways to get on base, or if he worked on that during the offseason, I mean, his approach has been phenomenal in that leadoff spot. He's not chasing that slider low and away. And neither is Manny. Mike Schilt talked about that with Ben and Woods. We're going to play that later on in the show. But the batters are locked in for San Diego right now. Everybody in the lineup's locked in. You're getting good at bats. You're getting good approaches. You're getting good pitching. We talked about the continuity of this coaching staff. And signing a guy like Ruben Niebla in the offseason to stay in San Diego is probably one of the best moves that A.J. Preller has made. Chris Ello mentioned that. It's 100% true. I think Victor Rodriguez is an unsung hero of the first 7 games of the season. There's a lot going right for the Padres, but they have this sustainability on the way that they're winning. It's not like they're putting together poor games and they're winning late because teams kick it around or the Padres need some luck on a walk-off. They're going out there and they have dominated every game that they have played in some fashion of the game throughout the entire game. Even on the Saturday where they beat the Braves 1-0, and the offense wasn't that particularly great, I mean, the pitching staff pitched a shutout with guys like Randy Vasquez. Do we think this is a factor because it was the first, finally the first full spring training this team has had since 2019 in reality? 2020 was the COVID year. 2021 was still relative COVID restrictions. And I think the lockout was one of those years too. Was that 2022? You had the World Baseball Classic in 2023. You had going to Korea in 2024. I mean, they have had an interesting start to the season every single year. And now you finally got a full spring training. You got the same crew that you had last year. And you're off to a 7-0 start. And you got guys off to hot starts that aren't usually off to hot starts. Manny's off to a good start. Fernando's off to a good start. You got players like Gavin Sheets and those players that you added on the fringes off to good starts. Jackson Merrill's off to a great start. Pitching staff's been great. I mean, there's not a lot to complain about when it comes to the Padres. Do they have some underlying conditions that you're going to have to deal with later in the year? Yeah. Can the back end of the rotation still get the job done? So far, so good. Can the catching position still contribute offensively? Starting to see Martín Maldonado fall off a little bit. Elias Diaz has been okay. He's been good to start, a little bit okay. Is that going to be sustainable in the long run? What is the next move for A.J. Preller moving forward after getting Jackson Merrill signed to a contract extension? And what a great contract extension that was yesterday. I mean, as you sit back and you kind of let everything settle down after yesterday, and yesterday was a fast-paced day because it started early in the morning with Jackson Merrill signing his contract extension. We had the whole world spinning over here about that particular deal and getting the press conference in and the interviews and then a quick show into Padres baseball. I mean, it was a fast day yesterday. Now, after one day, you can kind of decompress and really start to think about what this means for the organization, what the next move potentially can be, how that contract is a friendly contract for the San Diego Padres in terms of acquiring talent. Kevin Acee had an article today in his Padres Daily in the San Diego Union-Tribune. I mean, Jackson Merrill got some flack from the Players Association a little bit about potentially leaving more money on the table. I mean, we always thought that those type of contracts and being signed were always very difficult to come by because of the Players Association being so powerful in the sense of setting the market for everybody else. But Jackson Merrill wants to be here in San Diego. He showed that with the contract signing. He didn't take a ton of money. He left a lot of money on the table, and the guy wants to win. And as mentioned yesterday after the game, and we got to play some of that from post-game yesterday with Jackson Merrill. I mean, he was talking about how, even though it was a good day for him, He said, if we would have lost, I would have been pissed. That's kind of you need those players in this organization. You need those players. You need players like that on good baseball teams. I mean, that guy wants to win. I spent all day yesterday talking about that. We got a fun show planned, even though it's only a 3-hour show today. Again, the roundtable was the first hour from 10 to 11 o'clock. And if you missed any of that, they're going to replay that on Gwen and Chris on the radio. And then, of course, we'll have everything posted online as well. It was a fun conversation with Ben Woods, Paul, Matt Scraby, and Chris Ello, and myself talking about the status of the San Diego Padres. Hard to really poke any holes in this Padres team when you start 7-0 on the season. They will start a 3-game series against the Chicago Cubs. We'll get you a preview of that later on in the show. We have a couple of guests today as well. Mark Neville of the San Diego Sports Association will join us about the new event that is getting put in at USD. Not really a new event, same event. It's just getting moved to USD, the preseason college basketball event over the Thanksgiving holiday. We will talk about that. He's got a nice crew of teams coming in next year in San Diego, as well as kind of talk about the bowl game situation as well moving forward. We will also be joined by the new women's basketball coach at the University of San Diego in Blanche Alverson to end the show. Very interesting story with a very interesting, growing up as a kid in a town of 8,000 kids. And now she's the head coach of the USD women's basketball team in a city and county area of 3 million people. She'll join us at the 1:30 spot to end the show. We will get you a preview of the Padres and Cubs this weekend, updated power rankings in Major League Baseball, a couple things that Fernando did to improve during the offseason that is really paying dividends right now. I haven't even talked about it too much, but Magoon Gwath expected to be back at San Diego State if he's not drafted. We're going to get to all of that. But when we return, what's the aftermath of Jackson Merrill signing his contract extension? We'll talk about it when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Baseball coverage on 97 through the Fan is presented by T-Mobile. Head to T-Mobile.com and get a great deal on an iPhone 16 Pro. Braden Surprenant, this is the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station. 97.3 the Fan, Padres 7-0 to start the year. Just great news for all you Padres fans out there. Yesterday was a great day for Padres baseball in general. You signed one of your young superstars to a contract extension. You go out there, get a victory to improve to 7-0 on the season. And the Padres are rolling to get things started on their year. And again, as I mentioned before, they play 500 ball the rest of the way. They have 85 wins. Not to say you can start counting your chickens before they hatch, but or to relax at any bit in time. But that's why it's so important to get off to such a great start. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973 if you want to join the show today. But we want to talk more about this contract with Jackson Merrill yesterday and kind of the aftermath of him signing that contract extension. Again, we got a lot of great sound that we got from yesterday at the press conference from Jackson Merrill, and a guy that really wants to be here and he wants to win. But to go back to the contract and break down exactly what he got. He got a contract extension with a guaranteed salary of $135 million. So this is the inner details of that contract. Merrill is due $10 million signing bonus, which is $1 million this year and $3 million in each of the next 3 seasons. Signing bonuses do not account on the luxury tax, if I'm not mistaken. The contract begins next season as his guaranteed salaries of $1 million, $6 million, $8 million, and $10 million, and then $20 million a year from 2030 to 2034. There is a club option for 2034 that carries a base salary of $21 million. The option year becomes a player option worth $30 million if Jackson Merrill finishes in the top 5 in MVP voting in any of the contract's 9 years. He also can earn $1 million more every year from 2030 to 2034 for each year he reaches 500 plate appearances. And in addition, he can also earn an additional $1 million from 2030 through 2034 for every year he finishes in the top 10 in MVP voting. Merrill and his camp view the 500 plate appearance threshold as practically a given, in which why they consider the virtually guaranteed total to be $165 million. The maximum value over 10 years is $204 million. For perspective, as laid out in Kevin Acey's Padres Daily article today on the Union Tribune, Xander Bogaerts has reached 500 plate appearances in 9 consecutive seasons, excluding 2020, and Manny Machado has reached 500 plate appearances in 10 of his past 11 seasons, excluding 2020. Tom Kraslovic thinks Merrill will be more than fine over the course of the contract. He's got a column on it suggesting Merrill gives off Derek Jeter vibes, which I could kind of buy that a little bit. Very Derek Jeter level, very Derek Jeter-esque, even though he plays in center field and not shortstop anymore. But you look at that contract and everything that has played out, it does a couple of things. One, for the Padres, it gives them their best player or one of their best players under control during his prime years until he's 31, maybe even 32 years old, 31 years old. That's number one. Number two is it opens up the opportunity and the ability to create a roster and be competitive by building around Jackson Merrill and the rest of the players that are already under contract, because it's very team-friendly contract. Again, he's only making a couple of $1 million for the next couple of years before it really kicks in to gear in the year 2030 when he gets $21 million a year. And then by that point, at that point in time, you currently only have 5 players signed to contracts. It's the last year of Jake Cronenworth, and then you got more years of your core players of Fernando, Manny, and Xander. So you have your core group of guys all locked in until relatively the same years. The older guard of Manny and Xander through 2033, and then the younger guard of Fernando and Jackson in 2034. You have your 4 core players mixed with a couple other guys that will build the next 2 or 3 seasons out. So again, from a team perspective, it does a lot of great things. You get your player under contract. It's very affordable. It's a backloaded deal, so you can build around and build a better roster for the San Diego Padres. And Jackson Merrill had to be a part of that. He had to agree to that particular level of contract, and he got some flack for it. I mean, the Players Association wasn't necessarily thrilled about Jackson Merrill signing a team-friendly deal. And if you look at the excerpt from this article, when he talks about being on a big league field every day, that's enough of an exhale for me. I'm here. I'm breathing. I'm smooth. I'm happy to be here to play baseball. He's here to play baseball. He doesn't really care about necessarily the money as much. That is who he is, and that is why he cut through the noise from some corners that was suggesting he not sign such a team-friendly deal. That attempt at persuasion included the Major League Baseball Players Association stepping in and attempting to sway Merrill to not sign a 9-year deal that guarantees him $135 million and will likely end up being worth $165 million or more over the next decade. Merrill signed it anyway, professing his love for San Diego. His teammates, manager Mike Schild, and president of baseball operations, A.J. Preller. Again, from the article from Kevin A.C. You know, the thing with the Players Association and with unions in general, in principle, you know, there are good things about unions. And I'm not going to sway your opinion either way. The good things about unions and players associations, as you lay out, is they look out for the betterment of everybody that is a part of their group to make sure that they can make as much money as they possibly can. And so that's where you're at. The downside of it, obviously, for this is you got a guy like Jackson Merrill that wants to stay in San Diego. He wants to be a part of this organization for a long period of time. He got the money that he's thinking about that's good enough for him. But since his talent level's so high, he's really getting underpaid according to the Players Association, who isn't trying to set levels and thresholds for other players in the future to get as much money as they possibly can. And there's not a lot of players that have done away with it in that particular case. One other player that's done that, Tony Gwynn, taking a hometown discount to stay in San Diego his entire career. You don't see a lot of players like that. And that's why, you know, you've gotten a lot of comparisons between Jackson Merrill and Tony Gwynn. Those are some insane comparisons. I mean, for what Tony accomplished with all the batting titles that he won for being Mr. Padre here in San Diego, there's a lot of people that are going like, hey, this guy could be the next Mr. Padre. He very well could be. I think that's a lot of pressure and expectations to put on a kid who is now starting his second year at the big league level. But I think it goes a long way that he was drafted by the organization. He was developed by the organization. He signed this contract extension. Again, he's a free agent in 2034. He's not going to be done with baseball when the contract's up. So there's a possibility that Jackson does play for somebody else. That's not something you should really worry about. Not for the next 9 years. But it is a possibility nonetheless. Or he gets another contract extension, which is also another possibility. Manny Machado signed an extension on the big contract that he got when he was due up for an opt-out. So just because that he could go somewhere else doesn't mean he will go anywhere else. But the thing that's interesting, obviously, is those comparisons to Mr. Padre. And I think you're going to see a lot of those in the future with the way that he's been able to play and what he does to represent the city of San Diego. I think that goes a long way for a lot of people. And so Ben asked the question, you know, who out of Machado, Tatis, and Merrill will have the best Padres careers? I think from a talent standpoint, it's Fernando, but from an overall standpoint, I said Jackson Merrill for a lot of those reasons. Taking the deal to try to help the rest of the team win because he wants to win. Being a player that loves San Diego, and even though he's only been here for a year, having a team-friendly deal in the process. I mean, that's all the intangibles that Tony brought. I mean, there's people love Tony for more than just his ability to play. They love him for a lot of different reasons, and Jackson could potentially be that player. We'll discuss about that more in the 12 o'clock hour. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. When we come back, Mark Neville from the San Diego Sports Association will join us at a big announcement earlier this week. We'll talk about that. Plus, what the status of the Holiday Bowl is as we move on here on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 11:33 on a Thursday. Padres off day today. Padres are 7-0, off to a great start to the season. So a little bit of off day. We get to mix in some more sports here on the Braden Surprenant Show. This hour of 97.3 is brought to you by Robert Half. At Robert Half, we found that 67% of companies want to increase contract talent. That's why our recruiters' expertise and award-winning AI work quickly to find the skilled candidates you want. At Robert Half, we know talent. Visit roberthalf.com/talent today. I'm bringing in my next guest who does a remarkable job in bringing multiple and putting on these phenomenal events that a lot involve college athletics, but they do a lot more than that, but bringing tourism to San Diego through sports with Sports San Diego. He is the CEO of Sports San Diego in Mark Neville, joining me on the Braden Surprenant Show. Mark, what's going on? How's your Thursday going?
It's going great, especially since the Padres are 7-0. That's good stuff.
That's right. Always excited about the local teams doing a really good job. Mark, every time that I say that you're going to be on with some other, I know too many Red Jackets now, and they all try to give me information to tell along, to pass along to you that are all inside jokes, and I usually blank on them. But my guy Sam Flaming wanted to say hi, as well as Mooney from the Red Jackets. Apparently, I know a lot of Red Jackets out there, so I told him where to listen and where to be involved. But I know that you know a lot of them,
maybe
including
Braden,
Adam
you
Klug.
should get it. You should get one of those red coats as well. Adam looks fantastic in a red coat, by the way.
He does. He does.
Yes.
I've been asked, and I might be throwing my name in the into the group, so I might be getting nominated soon. We'll see. I'll keep you posted.
We would love to have you join us, Braden. That would be a win for us.
Oh, I appreciate that, Mark. But let's talk about some of the big moves that you guys are making, and then we'll dive into how difficult your job is, because it seems like it's going to be getting more and more difficult with the ever-changing landscape of college athletics. But from a good news perspective, with the 2025 tournament coming up for the Rady's Invitational, Rady's Children's Invitational, which will be November 27th to the 28th. You guys have some big teams coming to town in November. You guys are moving your venues, and not because of the other venue being down or anything like that. You've had great venues to choose from, but tell us about the new venue that you guys will be holding the tournament at, and why this came about, and what the details are.
Yeah, thanks, Braden. And the Rady Children's Invitational, we've only played it for 2 years. This will be our third year coming up this Thanksgiving, and it's already become, and I would even say, it's the best 4-team basketball tournament, early season basketball tournament in the country. Period. We have the great destination here in San Diego. We started the event over at Lion Tree Arena at UC San Diego. That's my alma mater. I loved having the tournament there. Earl Edwards and his athletic staff at UC San Diego and the facilities group, top notch, and really helped to build the event into what it is today. And we just needed a little more. We needed a bigger venue. We sold the event out 2 months in advance last year. So we're going to be moving over to Jenny Craig Pavilion at the University of San Diego. Kim Yamasi and his team are awesome, and it gives us more size, more to accommodate the demand that we've seen for the event, yet still keep it cozy and the atmosphere inside. I will tell you that the final last year between Purdue and Ole Miss was the atmosphere was electric, and it's going to continue now over at the University of San Diego. And one of the things that we're talking about today is tickets went on sale yesterday, and I can't believe how quickly they're going. I think right now we've been on sale for about a little over 25 hours, and the building's more than 33% full already for both days. So I encourage everybody to go to RadyChildren'sInvitational.com and get those tickets now, because they will go quickly. I anticipate it'll sell out well before the event takes place. A lot of it has to do with the field. We have the great destination. We have a great venue at USD. We have Fox Sports as our media broadcast partner, and they're terrific. So we got great visibility for the event, but we also get great fields. We started off hot with Oklahoma, Iowa, Seton Hall, and USC. Last year, we had a rematch of the Final Four from the year prior with Purdue and NC State, and then throw Ole Miss and BYU in there. And then this year, we possibly. I mean, it's still March Madness, even though we're in April. We got the Final Four coming up this weekend. And one of the teams that's in the Final Four is going to be coming here next November. And it's the Florida Gators out of the SEC will be in the tournament. We have the Wisconsin Badgers, and I think the Wisconsin Badgers are going to be very well represented. We're hearing a lot of chatter out of Madison and fans that are going to be heading this way. We got the Providence Friars out of the Big East will be coming out, and then we're going to be naming our fourth team here very quickly after the Final Four is completed. And so that's pretty fantastic too. So great field.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to mention, Mark, I mean, you look at, you mentioned the Purdue NC State rematch of the Final Four. You had the Ole Miss Purdue championship for the Children's Invitation. Those are two Sweet 16 teams this year with Ole Miss and Purdue. And BYU had a great year in the Big 12. And, NC State kind of fallen off, but that's still a premier program in college basketball. And as you mentioned, the field next year is going to be, legit as well. I mean, who wouldn't want to come to San Diego in November to play in a tournament? It's a lot easier travel for a lot of schools compared to, maybe having to go to the Bahamas or into Hawaii like we have seen in years past. But, with the ever-changing landscape of college athletics, and you have to deal with this from a bowl game perspective. We'll talk about the Holiday Bowl in a little bit. But, now you got NIL involved, and now tournaments are offering more money potentially for NIL funds. How do you guys navigate that and continue to develop and keep doing the great service that you bring for our community here when everything seems to be changing year in and year out for you guys?
Yeah, it is difficult. I mean, it's increasingly difficult seemingly with every day that goes by. If we're talking specifically about the basketball tournament, we have lost a couple teams along the way over these last 3 years, and to other events, and namely the one that's out in Las Vegas, the Players Era event, because they're offering a lot of money. And as a nonprofit here, it's tough for us to compete with that. What we're offering is we are offering money, not near the level that they're providing out in Las Vegas, but we're also providing like an unparalleled experience for the players when they come here, an unparalleled experience for the fans who attend the event. And so we've done pretty well. I mean, look, last year we had 2 Final Four teams in it. This year we got Florida could be the national champions this year, along with Providence and Wisconsin was a number 3 seed in their region in March Madness. So we've done a really good job, and I will say the Holiday Bowl helps a lot with that, because that's most people, when we got the basketball tournament started, a lot of people were asking, who is this that's organizing the event? And when we tell them it's the Holiday Bowl, same organizers of the Holiday Bowl, it's a no-brainer. They know that they're going to be taken care of. They know that it's going to be a first-class event. So they all tie together. And I will say also, Braden, the thing that I think sets this event apart from any other tournament in the country is the relationship that we have with our title sponsor and the beneficiary of the game, Rady Children's Hospital San Diego. We tie them into this event every step of the way. Proceeds from ticket sales go to Rady Children's Hospital. We have kids and faculty who are part of the festivities, whether patients are honorary captains and anthem singing and honorary ball deliveries and special presentations during the tournament. All of it just adds up. And I say this confidently that the Rady Children's Invitational, and I've been around here for 34 years with the organization. The Holiday Bowl has been around for 45 years plus. It may be the best event that we've ever produced. It's that special of an event, and now moving it over to the University of San Diego, the Jenny Craig Pavilion. We're going to step it up a notch in terms of the size of the facility, and there's a lot of energy behind this. And San Diego is a great basketball town. San Diego State's been consistent. The fun that we had last year with my alma mater with the Tritons, the University of San Diego, they'll be back as a good program with the West Coast Conference as well. So really, really excited for what's going on with basketball here in San Diego.
CEO of Sports San Diego, Mark Neville, joining me on the Braden Surprenant Show as we continue on here in our first hour of the program. And, I want to talk, this kind of sparked in my head with the, just what separates your tournament from a lot of the other ones. There's only, and correct me if I'm wrong. So each team, it's a 2-game guarantee, correct? No more than 2?
Correct. So it's 2 days. It'll be 2 days on the Thursday on Thanksgiving, 2 games. And then on Friday, we will start with the third place game. So the losers from Thursday's games will play each other, and then the winners will play each other for the championship in the last game on Friday.
All right.
So 2 games. And so the tickets, for example, we only sell 2-day tickets, and they range from $95 per ticket to $155 per ticket. And that's for 4 games. So it's a good price, and it's top-notch basketball, so, and then all the other fun stuff that we do. We try to bring in a lot of the bowl game stuff that we do as well.
So to kind of follow up on that, Mark, I mean, I don't know if you remember, but last year, like Dan Hurley complained about playing in a 3-game plus MTE, and he'll never do it again as the head coach of UConn. Are you seeing more coaches interested in playing in a tournament like yours in terms of it's just 2 games and that's it, and we can get our work in and move on, or is that something that's is going to be a benefit for you guys here in the future?
So when we got it started, we did hear a lot about, those 3-game events are pretty taxing. There used to be the rule that, teams could schedule 28 games plus, it's just the way that they can schedule their games. And so we were finding that the 2-game MTEs, or the tournaments, were becoming more popular than the 3-game MTEs. And so that's why we really did it this way. Now, things are changing at lightning speed right now as it relates to college basketball and scheduling and all that stuff. So we'll see where it goes in the future, but I do like where we are right now as a 14 2-game MTE. It gives more flexibility for the teams to do other events or other games. And so we like it. The teams like it. From everything that we're hearing, we've heard from several coaches who said this is the best tournament they've ever been to. So we're going to keep doing that regardless. We're going to roll with the punches as things change at the NCAA level, to make sure that we're still whatever the rules are with the NCAA, we're going to continue to put on the very best event.
Last question for you, Mark, and it involves the Holiday Bowl, obviously, and conference realignments moved everything around. I know we are up for potentially new bowl tie-ins for certain conferences in the future. Couldn't remember what year that was. I know today the powers that be are meeting on the college football playoff yet again. Where everything stands right now, where are we in terms of the timeline of new potential conferences, or when you guys have to start making decisions with new conferences, or if you're already doing that? Obviously, you don't need to name names, but if you're not at liberty to do so. But where are we in terms of, with everything moving in college athletics and new TV contracts, in terms of new conference bowl tie-ins?
So every bowl game is on the same cycle. And so 2020, this coming year, is the 6th year of this 6-year cycle. So we're still going to have the same matchup this year as we did in 2024. So we're going to have a top team from the ACC against the legacy Pac-12 team. So it's basically Oregon State, Washington State, who are still in the Pac-12, plus all those teams that were in the Pac-12, whether USC, correct, UCLA, Arizona State, they're in our picture this year. It all resets after this year's game. And so 26 and beyond, it's a new frontier we're going into. And so, but those conversations are already taking place. Like, I'll tell you, I've had conversations with 2 conferences so far. There's one that just reached out to me this morning to see if we can talk later today. So all of that is starting to take place. When we'll get that all solidified, I don't think there's a person on this planet that knows the answer to that right now. CFP's got to get all of their stuff situated first, and then after that, the rest of the bowl games will get all worked out.
Well, Mark, I appreciate the update. Obviously, keep doing the good work. I know this job seems to be getting more and more difficult and confusing as the days progress with college athletics. But we really appreciate you guys and your organization for bringing tourism to San Diego. So thanks again for the time.
Yeah, thanks, Braden. Just RadyChildren'sInvitational.com. Just get those tickets now before they disappear before too long.
Thanks again to Mark Neville joining us today on the Braden Surprenant Show. Talk about the new Rady's Children's Invitational, the third year of the tournament. Wisconsin's coming, Florida's coming, Providence is coming, and then the fourth team will be announced very shortly. Got a very quick sports thread today with Adam Klug.
You know that group chat, the one that's always blowing up with the biggest sports takes, debates, and breaking news?
You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me?
Yeah, we've got that too. Welcome to the Sports Thread, where we break down the top 5 stories in sports, just like you would with your crew.
Oh no! Disaster! What a bad idea!
No filters, no silence, just real talk.
All right, Adam, what we got today?
Number 1.
The Braves lost to the Dodgers last night, blowing a 5-3 lead in the 8th inning and losing ultimately on a Shohei Ohtani walk-off homer in the bottom of the 9th on his bobblehead night. No less.
Of course.
The Braves are now 0-7, Braden. Are you willing to completely write off the Braves' playoff hopes just 7 games into the season?
I am not, because the Dodgers and Padres are both undefeated and in first place in all of Major League Baseball. So from that category, no. Who do the Braves play this weekend? Do we know off the top of our head?
I should know that.
Yeah, you're the Braves guy.
Don't know that.
The Atlanta Braves this weekend will take on the Miami Marlins.
Woo! Get right series, right?
Yeah, you know what? That's right. If they lose the series, maybe you write them off, but I don't think it's going to be the case. I think the Braves take their anger out on the Fish for opening day in Atlanta. Yeah, they're the Marlins, the Fish.
Sorry.
Number 2.
The Orioles are 3-3, but reinforcements are on the way as star shortstop Gunnar Henderson is set to make his season debut tomorrow against the Royals after suffering an injury during spring training. The Orioles' season-long win total is 86.5 over at our friends at BetMGM. Are you taking the over or under on the Orioles' season win total?
I'll go over. I think they'll figure it out. I don't think the American League's that great. I think they're going to be able to take advantage of that. I think the top teams in the American League are going to have inflated win totals because of how lousy the American League is.
Number 3.
The St. Petersburg City Council announced earlier today that the city will commit $22.5 million to repair the roof at Tropicana Field, which was ravaged by Hurricane Milton, rendering the stadium unplayable for this season. The goal is to have the field ready for the 2026 season. Considering all the discussions about relocating the Rays, does it make sense for the city to commit public funding to repair Tropicana Field in an attempt to keep the team in Tampa?
Yes. I mean, $22 million to keep the roof open and maybe and have a facility for them to play at in order for them to, potentially in the future keep them. I think it's worth the investment. At the same time, the city probably takes over the building if they leave. So you might as well take care of your buildings. San Diego's still paying for the Chargers practice facility over here that we drive by every day to go to work.
Number 4.
The NBA investigated Grizzly star Ja Morant and Warriors guard Buddy Hield for mimicking a shooting gesture with their hands during Tuesday's game. Both players and teams were issued warnings after the NBA determined the gestures weren't intended to be violent. But Morant has obviously already been suspended due to brandishing firearms in the past. Should the NBA have sent a stronger message to Ja Morant?
Just because he's got a history with this and it's been a problem in the past for the NBA. I mean, the NBA's had a problem with Ja Morant and everything that he has done. So, Ja, we need to stop with the gun notions, the gun movements. Just stop. He just needs to stop. You'd think he would have learned his lesson by now. But the NBA, if you want this to go away, you have to be a little bit more stricter on making that happen.
Number 5.
This is in your wheelhouse. Texas quarterback Arch Manning is considered the top prospect for next year's draft. He's got the Manning pedigree and was the top high school recruit a few years ago and is considered the type of prospect worth tanking for, unlike this year's crop of QBs. This morning on Get Up, Adam Schefter said that there are no guarantees that Arch will turn pro after this season and that, quote, it certainly sounds like he could stay beyond next year. What % chance do you give Arch Manning of not turning pro after the upcoming season?
I'd go 60%. I don't think he's at that level yet for the National Football League, but at the same time, in this day and age of college athletics, when you look at how much money these kids can make by staying in college, especially if you play for a school like the University of Texas, which makes the most money out of any athletic department in the country, yes, I could see him staying. I mean, he's probably making more money at Texas than a rookie quarterback does right now. So why leave when everything's good, right? I mean, why leave, especially if you don't think you're at that position yet? So I'm going to go 60% he stays at Texas. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973 if you want to join the show today. When we come back, what did Mike Schultz say about Fernando Tatís Jr. on Ben and Woods this morning that is going to lead to a Fernando Tatís Jr. MVP season? We'll talk about that when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Lunchtime hour on the Braden Surprenant Show, taking you up to 2 o'clock in Gwen and Chris, and then another edition of a recorded edition of the Padres Roundtable, sponsored by Roundtable. We had that today. We had our first one earlier today at 10 in the morning. It was myself with Chris Ello and Matt Scraby, as well as the morning show, Ben Higgins, Stephen Woods, and Paul Reindl, all talking Padres baseball. A lot of great talking points that Ben put together today. We'll talk about some of those throughout the rest of the show as we continue on. Thanks again to Mark Neville for joining us on the show, talking about the Rady Children's Tournament that will be coming up during the Thanksgiving holiday in the fall. The basketball tournament that they have now put on for the third year, be the third season of that coming up in the fall. This year it will be at the University of San Diego as the host site. That particular tournament will feature Florida. It will also feature Providence, and it will feature Wisconsin, with one more team expected to be added later, again at the University of San Diego. Coming up at 1:35, speaking of USD, they have a brand new women's basketball coach in Blanche Alverson. She will join me at 1:35 to finish up the show. We got a very interesting story that she has. Very interesting. Her name's Blanche, and her sister's name is Stella. I wonder if her parents were super into A Streetcar Named Desire. We might have to ask that question later on. We do have some Padres news, and it's kind of surprising, to be honest with you. But, and everybody was asking about this, the San Diego Padres have made some roster moves today. We have selected Oscar Gonzalez to the Major League roster and have optioned him to AAA El Paso. Oscar Gonzalez is one of those players, obviously, that was trying to make the ball club and did not make it. He obviously did not get traded, nor did he get claimed anywhere in Major League Baseball. So he will be a member of the El Paso Chihuahuas. To make room on the 40-man roster, Johnny Brito has been transferred to the 60-day injured list. Johnny Brito on the 60-day IL. Also interesting. But that's not the biggest surprising news. Additionally, infielder Eggy Rosario has cleared waivers and has been outrighted to El Paso. So Eggy remains in the organization. So Oscar Gonzalez remains part of the organization. Eggy Rosario remains part of the organization. Tyler Wade remains part of the organization. And the players that were out of options for the San Diego Padres have all remained members of the San Diego Padres. I thought you were going to have to cut loose Eggy and Tyler Wade and Oscar Gonzalez. But they're all back in El Paso. The Chihuahuas got better today with the 3 new additions. As mentioned in the chat by Anthony Sandoval. Another masterclass by AJ. I thought for sure one of those guys would get picked up. But they're on the team now, so they're part of the organization in AAA. So they're there ready to come up if you have any issues with Yuli Gurriel or anybody else part of the bench pieces for the San Diego Padres. Very interesting roster moves. Again, the Padres still could trade these players in particular. And again, with Oscar Gonzalez, he has opt-outs in there if he's not on the Major League club by a certain time, just like Jose Iglesias had 2 years ago for the Padres. Remember, he was part of this organization 2 years ago before he went to the Mets last year. And he opted out and opted back in a couple of times. So that could be part of the equation here in the future. But an interesting roster move for the Padres nonetheless. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. That's the number to call today. Earlier this morning, Mike Schilt joined Bennett Woods for the manager's report, which is refreshed by EcoWater SoCal. And this morning, there was a couple of nuggets that he was asked about that are very interesting. Obviously, one involving Fernando's approach. But before we get to that, he talks about Jackson Merrill's new contract and the Padres being able to have him for the next 9 years.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a lot of superlatives that I can say about Jackson, and that includes his baseball talent. You know, he's just a really
put together young man that has his head on straight. That just cares about people, cares about the organization, cares about winning, and really clearly has some real ability and desire to compete, and use his ability to help us win ball games. I mean, those are traits that we talk about, and they sound easy, but they're not. To have that kind of total package, and Jackson clearly has it, and good for him, good for us, good for everybody listening that supports and roots for the Padres, because he's one of these generational guys that come along that helps move the needle towards greatness, and so we're excited to have him.
He's a guy you can build an entire organization around. They should be excited to have him. Everything he brings from an on-field perspective on top of that, and we talked a lot about this yesterday with him signing the contract, about the intangibles he brings. I mean, the story about him, while in Arizona against the Diamondbacks in the final series of the week of the season, that final weekend series of the season, he goes out there, and before the game, he drives over to the Peoria Sports Complex to watch an instructional league to see what kind of guys we got coming up in the minor leagues. And he wants to have that close connection with a lot of the players that are coming up, part of the organization. He wants to win. This guy he eats, sleeps, breathes, drinks Padres baseball, and this is the organization he wants to be a part of for the next 9 years. I mean, players that are that involved in the organization and the success of the organization, first of all, it's like a sicko for college basketball or college football. I mean, this guy is a sicko for winning and having the Padres win. Those are good traits to have. You could use a lot more of these guys, but there's so many redeeming qualities of Jackson Merrill, more than just his ability to play baseball. And we saw that on display again yesterday. Hit a pump yesterday after getting the contract extension. What a big day for Jackson Merrill. Jackson Merrill's not the only one off to a good start. Fernando Tatís Jr. also off to a good start. We mentioned his numbers earlier in the week, and he's doing a really good job in the leadoff spot. I mean, which he's always done a good job in the leadoff spot, but the kind of range in particular that he can really elevate his game in is not swinging at bad pitches and spitting on that slider away in the dirt in the left-handed batter's box and not chasing out of the zone. I got his baseball savant numbers for 2025. Again, it's still early on in the season, and a lot of these are not qualifications yet. But Ben and Woods asked Mike Schilt this morning on the manager's report about what the difference is for Fernando in his approach in the leadoff spot so far in the first 7 games.
He's really dedicated to end zone plate discipline. If you look at the one strikeout, but you can probably look at the walks too, and they're up. And so he's just he recognizes how dangerous he is, and is going to stay dangerous in the zone. And he's proven he's been able to do that really his whole career. But now he's marrying the dangerousness to making sure he can get pitches to handle him, and laying off pitches that he can't do as much with, and just allowing people to tiptoe around him in the situation, because he knows he's got Louis and Manny behind him. So just to play his own discipline and the approach of using the whole field, which he's done it for his career, but he's really intentional about using the whole field.
And he's been using the entire field, and he's been taking pitches that are outside the other way, and he's been pulling pitches on the inside part of the plate, and he's spitting on pitches that are not, pitches that he can do damage on. I mean, these are some of the things that Fernando has been having to work on for the last couple of years. Some of the downsides to his approach at the plate has been swinging out of his shoes on pitches that, yes, he could make contact with, but no, he cannot do damage on. When you swing at bad pitches and pitches out of the zone, poor results usually follow. You're doing the pitcher a favor swinging at some of the bad pitches that they leave up there. You got to wait for a mistake, and part of being a leadoff guy is grinding out at bats and flicking your wrist at some of the balls that are just on the edges to foul it off, and then wait for a good pitch that you can hammer and do serious damage with. And Fernando's done a good job of that. You look at his baseball savant page from just last year, and the numbers he has all red in pretty much every statistical category, even last year. And the parts of his game that were usually in the 50 percentile or lower, in which he is not doing very well, was chase percentage, whiff percentage, strikeout percentage, walk percentage. Because the guy swings at a lot of different pitches. He swings at it. He loves to hit. Goes out there to hack. Everything else is xWOBA, is expected batting average, is expected slug, average exit velocity, barrel percentage, hard hit percentage. I mean, all of those things are in the 90th percentile or higher. In fact, the lowest was 92 percentile in the barrel percentage. This is all last year. If you look at this year's numbers, and again, small sample size, I'm going to keep saying it till he qualifies, all of those numbers are still the same, except for the fact that chase percentage, whiff percentage, strikeout percentage, and walk percentage are all in the red, which is good on Baseball Savant, and all north of 70th percentile. The only thing that's the lowest is walks, which is at the 65th percentile. And last year, it was in the 40th percentile. Scoring like 25 points. Strikeout percentage has gone from the 46th percentile to the 96th percentile. Whiff percentage, 30th percentile in baseball. It means he whiffs a lot. This year, it's at about 75 percentile. I mean, he has drastically been more patient at the plate, which is going to lead to a lot better things. We're going to talk a little bit more about that when we come back, plus updated power rankings in Major League Baseball. Padres are not as high as I thought they would be. They're still pretty high. They jumped the list. But there's more than just the Dodgers in front of them. Who's been doing better than the Padres, you say? Well, according to ESPN, we'll tell you. We'll tell you what they said when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 17 on a Thursday. Padres off day today. What is everybody doing today if they don't have the Padre game? It's been so consistent having a Padre game in the afternoon or in the evening. Even, yesterday was odd for me too. Like after I got off work, you go watch the Padre game, like right after. It's like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock at night. I'm like, what am I going to watch? What do I put on? What do you guys do? What do you guys do when there's no Padre game? I mean, I do a lot of different things. In general, I mean, I play softball. I had softball last night. Play softball on Mondays. I have a busy schedule with USD Athletics as well. But like Thursdays, and you know what? I should have planned ahead on the Thursday deal. So Thursdays are like a new phenomenon in Major League Baseball the last couple of seasons, at least with the Padres, where they just never play on Thursdays. They never play on Thursdays. I mean, Look at the schedule. The Padres will not play on a single Thursday in April. There's not one Thursday in April they will play a game. Not one. If you go to May, they will play one game on a Thursday, and that's because they get a Monday off in the second to last weekend in May. And that's before they have to play on Memorial Day. And then that week they have a Thursday off. So they only have one game in May on Thursday. In June, they play on 2 Thursdays out of the 4. In July, they play on 2 Thursdays out of the 5. There's 5 Thursdays in July. In August, they will play 1 Thursday out of the 4. And in September, they will play 2 Thursdays out of the 4 potential weeks in September. So, like, I should have known this was the case the last couple of times, and I should have been playing softball on Thursdays. The problem with me playing softball on Thursdays is I coach high school football, and Thursdays are like I can't do the Thursdays. We either have and I'm not coaching at the lower levels this year, in which I've had to play on Thursdays a lot with coaching JV. We have our walkthroughs on Thursdays, and that starts in August, so that's still a couple of weeks during the season. About 6 weeks of the Padres season before playoffs start. Playoffs. I'll have to deal with that anyway. So I couldn't do like softball on Thursdays. And so honestly, I started playing softball on Wednesdays because when I first got back to San Diego, I was running Padre games for 94.9. Back when we had the games on the station next to us on FM 94.9. And so Wednesday day games were easier. It's like I knew how to work Wednesday day games, and I would have Wednesday nights off because the Padres never play any Wednesday night games. Very rare. That's usually at the end of the season. So yesterday, it was like Wednesday day game later on in the afternoon. It's like, what are we doing? What's going on? I ended up doing what Jason Haynes in the chat said. I watched the Braves choke. I did watch the Braves for a handful of innings. They jumped off to a great start, and then they just fumbled the bag against the Dodgers. So I ended up I played softball at 8 and 9 in the Wednesday league. And then Mondays, I play on Mondays too. Mondays is a fun, that's more of a fun night for me because I play my brother's team and his friends. It's one of the only teams I'm one of the older players on for some particular reason. All the other teams I'm on, I'm usually one of the younger guys, but on his team, I'm one of the older players. I'm one of the old savvy veterans coming off the bench on Mondays, which is fine with me. I mean, less running I have to do, the better, because I have to run on all the other teams as well. But again, the no Thursday games until July. You got to find other things to do, guys. You got to find shows to watch, or watch other games on TV. Phillies are up 2-0 on the Rockies right now in the bottom of the 8th inning. I will be busy in August and September, and once football starts in reality May, when we have spring ball, it's going to get even more busy. But it's weird having the deal. No, I'm starting, Brandon. It's men's slow pitch. Johnny's just trying to talk S in the chat for anybody that's on the YouTube page. Johnny finally came back from an elbow injury, and his elbow still hurts. So, and that's really getting old. So we'll see if Johnny can bounce back next week for the chickens, for all you Poway softball people out there. Anyway, Enough about that. What do you guys do? Kings, gym, work, watch House of David. Good for you, Kings. Get a pump in. That's good. You can go work out. Thursday afternoons might be a time to get an extra workout in. I do Mondays and Wednesdays and Saturdays, but a little Thursday action, a little pump in. That's good. Camping trip. Katie doing some camping. Girl Scout planning for a camping trip. I haven't been camping in forever. I can't tell you the last time I went camping. Camping's fun. I mean, it's a good time. Beach camping's great. I love going to San Alejo, which is impossible to get into nowadays. But the campground at San Alejo, not a better spot. Not as better spot. I've camped at the Silver Strand before in Coronado. That's also a good spot. There's good camping spots in town. I like the beach camping a little bit better, but I haven't done camping in so long. So long. Anyway, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's talk about the ESPN's power rankings. And when I said that, already people were saying, like, ESPN cut baseball. They don't know what they're talking. The coverage of baseball on ESPN is rough. I mean, talk about a league that they don't even think exists. And thank God for MLB Network and, of course, radio stations like ours, 97 through the Fan, where we can talk about baseball. And as Mark in the chat says, I have absolutely nothing to complain about right now. I'm at a loss. Yeah, there's really not a lot. Life's good right now as a Padre fan. But if you want something to complain about, you can look at the power rankings from ESPN. They have their new power rankings. And I will say this, the Padres have jumped 7 spots. They've jumped up 7 spots. Which is great. I mean, they should. They started the season at number 10, according to ESPN. Jackson Merrill, the Padres' 21-year-old budding superstar, signed a 9-year contract extension Wednesday morning that guarantees him at least $135 million. Thanks, ESPN. Later in the day, he crushed his second home run in a 5-2 win over the Guardians, pushing the Padres to a 7-0 start, longest season-opening winning streak in franchise history. A continuation, this early surge will hinge largely on their superstars, a list that includes Manny Machado, Fernando Tatís Jr., Xander Bogaerts, Luis Arraez, Dylan Cease, and Yu Darvish. But Merrill is squarely in that group too. That's from Alden Gonzalez on his spot for the Padres. Number 3 in the power rankings. Number 1 is obviously the Los Angeles Dodgers. Is anybody really upset about that? We know what we were expecting. We know what that was going to be. They're number 1. They were not number 1 to start the year. They're going to be number 1 for a long period of time unless they lose 15 games in a row, which ain't happening. They're 8-0 to start the year. They got a walk-off home run at Ohtani last night on Ohtani bobblehead night. They're number 1. No surprises there. We'll start from 10 and work our way up. Number 10 on the list, the Houston Astros. Astros off to a 2-4 start. Giants went in there and beat them up a little bit. Is anybody worried about the Giants? Anybody? Anybody thinking about the Giants? Giants coming at 12 on the power rankings this week. Giants are in 3rd place in the National League West, 3rd place in the National League, 3rd place in Major League Baseball. If you look at the standings right now, the top 3 teams in Major League Baseball are all in the National League West. Every spot. Dodgers, Padres, Giants. The top 3 teams in Major League Baseball in the standings. We haven't even played 10 games yet, so it is what it is. Arizona's in the top 10 as they have a 4-2 record. You have 4 teams in the National League West in the top 10 in the standings in all of baseball overall. Dodgers are 8-0, Padres are 7-0, and the Giants are 5-1. They are a combined 20-1, the top half of the National League West. What a tough division that is to start the season. So anybody paying attention to the Giants yet? I still think the Diamondbacks are probably better. And the power rankings say that. But the Giants went out there and beat up on the Astros during the week. Moved them down 1 spot. I think the Astros are going to be okay. Again, the American League, I don't think they're nearly as good as the National League. Tampa Bay comes in at number 9. A little surprised about their start. They're 4-2. They still got decent pitching. Who knows what they're going to be right now? Who knows how much longer Shane McClanahan will be out because of a triceps injury? Shane Boz has done a good job. He's a former first-round pick. He threw 6 scoreless innings against the Pirates. Pirates are off to a rough start, but Tampa using a little bit of an easier schedule against Colorado and Pittsburgh to start the year gets them out to a 4-2 start. Mets come at number 8. I don't know why the Mets are in the top 10. I don't get the Mets. I'm not a huge believer in the Mets. They're off to a rough start offensively. They've only scored 17 runs in the first 5 games, 10 of those coming in one game against the Marlins. Juan Soto's start has been fine. He's homered in a 3-1 victory of the Astros in the second game of the season. He's also taking his walks, so no surprise. But he did strike out to end the season opener, representing the go-ahead run with 2 runners on base in a 3-1 loss, whiffing on a nasty 3-2 slider from his former teammate Josh Hader. Mets fans will be ready to give him a loud ovation for the home opener on Friday. Maybe that turns things around. I don't get the Mets. They come at number 8. Baltimore at 7 at 3-3. Texas at 6 at 5-2. I think Texas is a sneaky team. And Jacob deGrom pitched only 10 innings against Major League competition in spring training and gave up 5 runs and 2 homers. So nobody really knew what to expect from him in his 2025 debut, but delivered 5 scoreless innings against the Red Sox, a team that was expected and is still expected to be the American League representative in the World Series. Texas might be sneaky. Top 5 of the power rankings we'll get to when we come back. We will also talk about the Aztecs potentially keeping Magoon Gwath, and who else might they be bringing into the portal. Brian Dutcher up to work right now. He's doing some great things for Aztec basketball. We'll talk about that when we continue on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Hour 97.3 The Fan is brought to you by your local San Diego County UPS stores. Your local San Diego County, the UPS store locations are hosting a shred event from April 7th through April 15th. 50% off shredding services. Visit theupsstore.com for the local, or should I say the location nearest you, see store for details. Got a lot to pack in here into this one segment. Coming up at about in the next 10 minutes or so, we're going to play our brand new game on the show, the Midday Sports Standoff. We need a contestant for that. So if you want to try to take me down in our daily game, it will give you an opportunity to qualify for our grand prize of 2 sold-out tickets to When We Were Young Festival in Las Vegas on October 18th, featuring Blink-182, Panic at the Disco, The Offspring, and more. Tickets for day 2 on sale now at whenwewereyoungfestival.com. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Need a contestant for the game. We're going to get to that in about 10 minutes or so. If you can take me down, you'll qualify for an opportunity to win tickets to that particular sold-out event. Again, that will happen in about 10 minutes or so. We do want to talk about the rest of these power rankings that ESPN put out. Everybody likes to get all up in arms about ESPN's power rankings for baseball, especially since their baseball coverage is relatively going away. But if you look at where everything is with the power rankings, I mean, I'm agreeing on some, I'm disagreeing on others. But we got to our top 5. Again, the top 10, Astros at 10, Tampa at 9, New York Mets at 8, Baltimore at 7, Texas at 6. We already told you that the San Diego Padres are 3rd, and we also told you that the Los Angeles Dodgers are 1. So there's a team that they think is still better than the Padres after 1 week. You could guess who that is as many times as you would like. Nate Taylor in the chat. I agree with Nate Taylor right here, by the way. Someone needs to ask Harold Reynolds what he thinks about the Padres right now. I would say so, too. I mean, with the way that he was convinced that the Padres should just be shipping everybody off and go into full rebuild mode. Got 7-0 to start. Sean Bouchard with a knocked kid from Carmel Mountain. And Cathedral Catholic driving in a run for the Colorado Rockies. It's 3-1 Phillies in the top of the 9th. Rockies not going away on a day game in Philadelphia. I don't know how you can't have the Padres number 2 at this point in time. I guess they've jumped from 10. But top 5. Here's the thing with the top 5. 3 teams are in the National League West in the top 5 of the latest power rankings. And it's hard to argue with these. At number 5, who has gotten the better of number 4 the last 2 days, is the Arizona Diamondbacks. Arizona's at 4-2. They stayed in the same spot that they were to begin the season. I keep telling you guys, Arizona's a team that you got to be worried about because they're a good baseball team. Last year, Eugenio Suarez slashed just a 196, 279, 312 slash line through the first 3 months. It wasn't until July that he really got going. And in July, oh my God. Not only did he have a slump, he was also having a slump with Corbin Carroll at the exact same time. And the Diamondbacks offense was awful until the pair got going. So if there's one major sign of encouragement that could be gleaned from this week, as mentioned by Alden Gonzalez, it's that Eugenio Suarez clearly isn't waiting around this year. Diamondbacks third baseman has already homered 5 times and has driven in 11 runs while putting up a 13-12 OPS through his first 6 games. And given the hot starts of the Dodgers, Padres, and Giants in the NL West, Suarez's hot start has been crucial. Pressure's really on Arizona for keeping up. I mean, Arizona and San Francisco were part of the conversation of being teams that are competing in the National League West. And in this, with the Padres and Dodgers having a hot start, I mean, Giants are having a great start. Their best start since 2014. They're still 2 games behind the Padres. Alden Gonzalez, who actually wrote a lot of the excerpts from the power rankings for the National League West, will be on Gwynn and Chris later on this afternoon. Friend of the station, Alden Gonzalez from ESPN. But think about that. I mean, Padres fans, like, again, if you try to compare yourself this early in the season to other teams, especially the Dodgers, since that is the team you're chasing, you'd be upset with your 7-0 start because you're still a half game out of first place. Diamondbacks got off to a good start. They're 4-2. They're 3 games out of first place. They're 2.5 games behind the Padres. Giants are 2 games out of first place. They're 1.5 behind the Padres. They're off to a 5-1 start. After losing 1 game to Cincinnati and then sweeping Houston this week down in Houston. But again, Diamondbacks at number 5, and Eugenio Suarez. To me, Eugenio Suarez, like the season he had, like to finish the year and where he's at with his age and everything like that, I just feel like he's like a player that came out hitting the lights out from 3. It's just, I don't think it's sustainable. Maybe it is. I mean, he did it all to the end of last season. He's starting the season off like this. I don't think it's sustainable for him, though. Now, if it was Corbin Carroll that was off to this killer start to the season, I could buy that. He's their rookie phenom. He's their Jackson Merrill, right? So I could see that happening. But the fact that he's got 5 home runs already and 11 RBIs and a 13-12 OPS, and the guy's been raking, I mean, good for him. But at the same time, I just don't think it's that sustainable for the Diamondbacks. Still think they're a really good team, though. I mean, they got a really good rotation, even without Jordan Montgomery. They come at number 5. Yankees coming at number 4. To put Judge's start in perspective, at the outset of 2024, what turned out to be one of the greatest seasons ever for right-handed hitter, it took Judge 19 games to reach 11 RBIs. This season, it took him 3 games. And what was the best start to any season in his career, Judge began 4 for 6 with 3 home runs against left-handers, and with runners on base, he started 5 for 9 with a walk. A big question coming into the season was how much Judge would be affected by the departure of Juan Soto from the number 2 spot, and in a very small sample, the initial answer is not at all. Although that being said, they hammer the Brewers, who aren't very good. Now they're playing the Diamondbacks, who are good, and the Diamondbacks have taken the first 2 games. What's up with the Torpedo Bats now? You know, maybe they're playing some bad pitching at the same time. I mean, Milwaukee's 2-4. Just won 2 games in a row. After Kansas City kicked their ass on the first day, they were able to bounce back and win the next 2 games. So maybe Brewers are on a little bit of a better scale here. But again, I think the Yankees are playing with fool's gold right now, early in the season. Padres are number 3. Already mentioned that. Dodgers at number 1. And the number 2 team, according to ESPN.com, the Philadelphia Phillies. Phillies at 4-1 are considered better than the Padres right now in terms of the ESPN.com power rankings. They're off to a good start. They are playing Colorado today. They're up 3-1 at the top of the 9th, but Colorado's got the tying run on first base with nobody out. We'll see if Colorado can come back against Alvarado here and try to sneak one out from Philadelphia, although they just had a punch out. So now there's runners on first and second with 1 out and a 3-1 lead for Philadelphia in the top of the 9th. I think Philadelphia is a good team. I think it's going to be a problem for San Diego at some point during the season. San Diego doesn't really do well against the Phillies. They haven't in recent years. I always look back to that 10-game losing streak the Padres had in 2010 where they won 90 games and missed the postseason as the Phillies being a part of that. And ever since then, I feel like the Phillies have just dominated the Padres. So they're going to be obviously a pain to deal with. But if you look at the Phillies so far, I mean, they've played 2 of the teams that are expected to come in last in their divisions. They played Washington and they played Colorado. They took 2 out of 3 from Washington. The first game went to extras on opening day. And now they're trying to sweep the Colorado Rockies today in Philadelphia. But the bases are loaded in the top of the 9th inning in a 3-run lead for Philly with 1 out. So Colorado making some noise against Philadelphia. So that's the latest power rankings. Again, in the top 12 are 4 of the 5 NL West teams. NL West is loaded this year. Loaded this year with talent. I think the National League in general is loaded with talent. I think it's just way better than the American League. Yeah, Bouchard had an RBI knock. San Diego kid drove in the 1 run today for Colorado. And they're trying to flip the order back to the top. Again, Philly up 3-1 in the top of the 9th. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. We've already had 1 contestant win so far. See if I can get a victory back. It's time for the midday sports standoff on the Braden Surprenant Show.
Welcome to Midday Sports Standoff on the Braden Surprenant Show.
I can't believe what I'm seeing right now.
The ultimate head-to-head battle where sports knowledge and quick thinking collide.
No, he's no good. Are you kidding me?
Contestants will go toe-to-toe with Braden in a sports trivia deal where every correct answer brings them closer to victory.
Down the sideline! Wow! Unbelievable!
But 3 strikes and it's game over.
This is not Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl.
Can you outsmart Braden? The Midday Sports Standoff starts now.
Time for the Midday Sports Standoff. We're going to go back and forth and try to get our answers to a list that Adam Klug puts together as we now bring in Adam. Whoever's got the most points at the end will win today's contest. And playing today is Roger in Spring Valley. Roger, what's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going? Happy Padres season.
Happy Padres season is right. 7-0 start to the Padres season. Well, Roger, if you could take me down, you could start the contestants off to a 2-0 start on the Midday Sports Standoff. And if you win today, you will qualify for an opportunity to win tickets in our grand prize of 2 sold-out tickets to the When We Were Young Festival in Las Vegas on October 18th, featuring Blink-182, Panic at the Disco, The Offspring, and more. Tickets for day 2 on sale now at whenwewereyoungfestival.com. We'll now bring in Adam Klug, who will host our game show. Adam, what's up?
Not much, Braden. Obviously, the Padres off to a historic 7-0 start. Their offense, a big reason why. The Padres ranked 6th in all of Major League Baseball in team OPS. So let's take a look at the top 10 teams in OPS this season. You can name anybody in the top 10 except the Padres. So there are 9 correct answers. First one to get 5 correct or would win. First one to get 3 wrong loses, if that makes sense.
It does. And we'll go back and forth. And Roger, since you are the contestant, you get a couple of perks in being the contestant, since we like giving away prizes here on the Braden Surprenant Show. Perk number 1 is you get to go first. Perk number 2 is if we happen to tie, which with only 9 answers we won't, in other particular instances we could, you automatically win the tiebreaker. So
although
those are your 2 perks.
Also means he could get to 3 strikes first.
He could also get to 3 strikes first.
Just throwing it out there.
That's also true.
All right, Roger.
Roger, you're up first. Can you name us a team in Major League Baseball with the highest OPS to start the year?
Yeah, I guess we'll go with the Phillies.
The Phillies. They are second on the list at 885 team OPS.
Okay.
Pretty impressive.
It is pretty impressive. We'll see if they can blow this game, though, against Colorado. I hope they do. I'm going to go with the Torpedo Bat New York Yankees.
The Torpedoes of New York. Number 1.
Second one.
Had to be number 1.
978.
All the home runs that they've hit in the bandbox that they play in at Yankee Stadium.
All right, Roger, you're up. I got 7 answers left.
Well, we'll go with the obvious rival with the Dodgers. Dodgers.
I thought they would actually be the first guess. They're actually 5th, though. 814. It's a correct answer, but not as high on the list as one might imagine.
All right, so that's 3 off the board, 3 off the board.
3 of the correct answers, 4 of the top 10, because the Padres are not an eligible answer, but they are in the top 10.
Where are the Padres in the top 10?
6th.
They're 6th.
8-10.
What about the Chicago Cubs after playing in Sacramento?
I think that'll do it for you, huh?
Yeah.
In Sacramento. They're 8th on the list. 794, so not as high as you might think, but it's a correct answer nonetheless. I guess maybe those Japan games brought them down a little bit.
Yeah, maybe. They can only play the A's 3 times.
Still 8th, though.
So they're 8th. All right, so
we got a 2-2 tie so far with 0 incorrect answers for either contestant.
All right. Back to
All
Roger.
right, we'll go with I think he's still the manager of the team, Bruce Bochy's Texas Rangers.
Bruce Bochy's Texas Rangers.
No.
Oh!
Pitching's been winning for the Rangers. They only have 18 runs scored this year.
Nate Eovaldi with a complete game the other day.
You don't see that very often. Should that be almost
They
considered
called
like
it-
a no-hitter at this point?
They called it the Maddox. You know what the Maddox is, yes?
No.
Complete game with under 100 pitches.
Wow.
99 pitches.
That's some
Nate
Randy
Eovaldi.
Jones level stuff right there.
All right, Braden, you're up.
All right, so he's got one strike. What's the score? Tied at 2 still?
Tied at 2.
And we have 4 off the list, including
Got
the Padres with 5.
answers. 5 correct answers left.
5 correct answers are left. Well, the Giants are off to a pretty good start. They're 5-1. They've scored 30 runs this year. I'm going to go with the Giants. Oh, all right.
Okay. All right, I'll
Gotta
go with
strike
the
each.
next one on the list, and we'll go to the West and go Diamondback.
That's a good guess.
Fourth on the list. Fourth on the baseball with an 842 OPS.
All right, so we have the Dodgers have been set. What has already been said?
Yankees, Phillies, Diamondbacks, Dodgers, Padres, and Cubs are the correct answers that have been said. Giants and Rangers, incorrect answers.
Incorrect answers. Cardinals have scored a lot of runs too. I just don't think they're very good. I'm gonna go. I'll go with the Cardinals. Maybe the Cardinals have driven in a lot of runs with extra base hits. Cardinals.
Third in all of baseball.
Wow.
878 OPS.
It plays to play the Twins and the Angels, even though the Angels kicked their ass this week. Okay.
We have a 3-3 tie so far. There are 3 correct answers left.
And both have a strike. All right, back to you, Roger.
Ooh. All right, so we're narrowing it down. And you said how many more left?
There-
3 teams?
There are 3 teams left, and I'll give you guys a hint since these are tough. These are all American League teams.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Then I'd probably figure out one because Gunnar Henderson and the Orioles.
Gunnar Henderson
answer.
and
That
the
was my
Orioles.
next
Gunnar
one.
Henderson has not played a single inning for the Orioles.
Really?
If you were
Oh,
listening to the
yeah.
sports thread earlier, you'd know that. But
That's right.
they come in 7th at 804. 2 correct answers left. Braden, it's tough. You're down 1, and you each have a strike. A strike here, and you're in desperation mode.
I'm going to go with Toronto with 32 runs scored. Toronto.
9th on the list, 785
Wow.
OPS. Wow.
Oh,
There is 1 correct answer left. It's tied 4-4, and you each have a strike.
Down to the nitty gritty here.
This is where going first might actually come back to bite you.
It's true.
yeah, damn. I heard you guys mentioning that, the Angels scored a lot, so I'll take a chance with the Angels.
The Halos, he says. Oh, no.
I only have the top 10 written down. I would love to know where they actually rank. I would imagine it's probably pretty low.
All right.
As Braden called them an embarrassment earlier.
Aren't
They
like
were an
1-2?
embarrassment, but they've turned it around. I mean, St. Louis might be an
All right,
embarrassment.
Braden, for the win here. Although you're
Um,
in a good spot either way.
I'd go with what about Detroit?
The Detroit Tigers for the win.
Bang!
Oh,
Corner 3.
Looking for the applause. here.
Bosh! Back out to Allen. Bang! Wow, what a comeback. That was a fun game, though. Roger.
and
755 OPS. They're 10th on the list.
my cousin says I'm a loser.
Oh, no. No.
Thanks for playing, Roger.
Thanks for playing,
Hey, thanks a
Roger.
lot. Bye.
I needed a bounce back game after the last one. The leadoff hitter, opening day leadoff hitters was rough. That was the tough.
Got to make you think a little bit.
I understand that. And what was that, 2 days ago? I get in my buddy's group chat. I just get roasted. Like, dude, you just got cooked. And I'm like, how am I was like, all right. And one of my friends like, cooked in what? I said, leadoff hitters on opening day. And one of my other friends that's a Padres
What,
fan,
you
like,
didn't remember John Jay and Austin Nola?
I mean, I remember those players, but they never bat leadoff. And I was like, all right, man, let's ask the other guys in the chat. And I said, I dropped Tommy Pham, and they're like, that's not right. I'm like, it is. That's how difficult that question was. But that was fun game 2. I'm 1-1 now all time in the midday sports standoff. We're going to talk more about Magoon Gwath coming back to San Diego State if he doesn't get drafted, some other portal news for the Aztecs, plus Padres and Cubs preview series in the next hour. the Braden Surprenant Show for the week. We're off tomorrow. No show tomorrow as we have Padres baseball starting at 11:20 in the morning for opening day at Wrigley Field. Padres open up Wrigley Field tomorrow against the Chicago Cubs, who have obviously started off with a very long road trip. Started off in Japan, and then they came back home, and then they had to play in Sacramento earlier this week. And then over the week, where did they play to start the season? I can't remember off the top of my head. But they're finally home at Wrigley in Wrigleyville, which is a cool place to go watch a game. If you've never been able to. Oh, yeah, Arizona. They started in Arizona. So actually, we were talking about it moments ago. The Cubs, this will be the Cubs' fourth opener, Adam, right? They opened in Japan, which is an opening day celebration. They opened in Arizona, which was an opening day. That was the first series in Sacramento was against the Cubs. Opening day for the A's, and now we'll have their own opening day against the Padres tomorrow at 11:20. They have 4 opening days this year. Am I doing that right? Are we thinking about that? Am I thinking about that correctly? Japan counts as an opener. Arizona, their home opener. A's, their home opener. And now the Padres will be Chicago's home opener. So they have 4 opening days to start the season. That does sound exhausting. They have towed the line on the foul line and have gone through these introductions now for the 4th time coming up tomorrow. Padres only had to do it twice. They'll do it. They did it on opening day, and they'll do it tomorrow, and that's it. They don't have to do it any more than that. Cubs are going to do it 4 times this year. That's crazy. But we don't have a show tomorrow because the game starts at 11:20, which means the Ecowater SoCal Padres pregame show starts at 10:20, which means Ben and Woods will carry over for a couple extra minutes, about 10, 15 minutes over their normal show. We'll take you into the Ecowater SoCal Padres pregame show with Sam Levitt, and then get you ready for Padres and Cubs as Imanaga for the Chicago Cubs goes against Randy Vasquez of the San Diego Padres, and we'll preview that in just a little bit. But I do want to mention, and we haven't had time to talk about this because of all of the Padres news, but San Diego State's been getting good news in the basketball department. And it started with earlier this week that everybody thought, I thought it was too. A lot of people thought it was an April Fool's Day joke. But Magoon Gwath is coming back to San Diego State next season, as mentioned in the article by Mark Ziegler, friend of the show. The 7-foot redshirt freshman entered the transfer portal when it opened on Monday and quickly was pursued by some of college basketball's most storied programs with millions of NIL money. By Tuesday afternoon, several recruiting experts made crystal ball projections that Gwath would transfer to Kentucky. Behind the scenes, though, Gwath was having second thoughts about leaving the program that uncovered him at a prep recruiting event in Arizona 2 springs ago, then patiently developed him over the past 2 seasons. He told San Diego State coaches on Tuesday night that he would return while still leaving open the possibility of the NBA draft. This is what Brian Dutcher had to say about the matter. Quote, I knew he wanted to be here with us and knew in his heart that he wanted to be at San Diego State, but he owed it to himself and to his family to see what was out there. At the end of the day, he was willing to settle for less money. It's not all about the money as much as people want to say it is. Money is important, of course, but if money was the end-all, be-all, we wouldn't have a team right now, which is very true. So Magoon Gwath, who was the freshman player of the year, freshman of the year and defensive player of the year, as well as honorable mention all-conference, finished 7th nationally in blocks per game, is expected to come back to San Diego State next year. Gwath put up an average of 13.9 points, 8.9 rebounds, and 3.1 blocks per game that drew dozens of NBA scouts to come see him. He entered the portal and almost figured that he was a goner, or most people thought he was a goner, I myself included, given the enormous sums of being thrown around this spring. Brian Dutcher did estimate he would command in the neighborhood of $1.5 million to $1.7 million. No figures about what he'll receive at San Diego State next season were revealed. The Mesa Foundation, the program's NIL collective, had amassed just north of $2 million for 2025-2026, although a recent matching campaign up to $500,000 has generated more than $300,000 on donations this month. Just this month. Brian Dutcher went on to say that Gwath's return speaks to the program we have and the culture we have, and the Mesa Foundation allows us to achieve the goals we want to achieve. The players love their experience here and want to win at the highest level, and the Mesa Foundation allows us to do that. Everybody knows how good he is, Dutcher said, but he's just scratching the surface of what he could be. This is a big pickup for San Diego State. I think Gwath eventually will be a draft pick in the NBA. I think he will be an NBA player eventually. He's got all the intangibles of it. He's got the size, right, with his height. He does need to put on some weight. He is still very thin for a basketball player. He can shoot threes at 7 feet tall. I mean, that's very impressive. And as Brian Dutcher said, he's just scratching the surface. So him getting drafted this year, I think, is very slim, which goes to the point of what Mark Ziegler put in his column or in his article. Magoon Gwath is coming back to San Diego State next season. He's not going to get drafted this year, which means he's coming back to the Aztecs. That's a huge pickup to bring him back. I mean, you already were going to lose Boyd. Bird sounds like he's going to come back again. He didn't enter the transfer portal. I'm not convinced he's going to get drafted in the NBA either. And they already had, I think, enough funds to secure him for next year. So you got Boyd coming back, and you got Gwath coming back, and now you could go out there knowing that you got these guys coming back to help pitch to other players in the portal and go out there and start reassembling a good basketball team. I said it right after the North Carolina loss. I said, look, you know, you could say what you want about the team being young and being satisfied about making the NCAA tournament if you really want to do that. But they didn't really make the NCAA tournament. They made the first four. You can include that. But, you know, it was a play-in game. And you got blown out of the building. The only silver lining was the team's young and a lot of the guys are coming back. And then some of them enter the portal. Most notably, your best player, Magoon Gwath. But with him coming back, yes, okay, I will buy what you're saying on it's a young team and they can develop a little bit longer. Getting Magoon Gwath back is huge for San Diego State basketball. And they're already trying to make some hay with Sean Newman Jr., who has entered the transfer portal, who is attending Louisiana Tech, La Tech, but is from Southern California. He finished his senior season for the Culver City Centaurs in February 2020. He was 135 pounds, maybe 140. If he ate a couple cheeseburgers, he had no college offers. Pandemic hit, shut down society, including spring basketball showcases for unsigned seniors. And he went on to go play at Fullerton College. On Wednesday morning, 6'1" point guard was at San Diego State with the keys to a high-octane machine that includes most of last season's roster that reached the NCAA tournament. This is what Newman had to say. It says, who will transfer to San Diego State from Louisiana Tech? Sounds like that might be a done deal. Quote, I've always been overlooked my whole life, said Newman. I was a late bloomer my whole life, even in middle school, and I was always on the second team or third team. I was never picked to be on the first team ever. It just instilled a work ethic to just keep going no matter what it looks like. I've done all of this because I love the game so much. I wouldn't even say it's a chip on my shoulder. This is just what I love to do, which is above all, passing the basketball. Newman, new point guard for San Diego State, got an offer from Fullerton College, spent 3 years there out of high school, which the first one was wiped out by the pandemic. From there, he went to Louisiana Tech and Conference USA, where he averaged 9.9 points and ranked third in Division I with 7.9 assists per game. Newman has at least one season of eligibility remaining from his medical redshirt year in 2021 and 2022, and likely a second from a recent NCAA decision compelled by a court ruling to not count junior college against your allotted 4 years of Division I competition. I don't know how that's going to play out, but it is possible. You might be getting even 2 years of Newman. The connection to San Diego State is assistant coach Ryan Bartellelli, whose youth coach was Webster's father and who recruited Newman while on UC Irvine's staff. Bartellelli also knows Perry Webster well and trusts his talent evaluation. Webster got a tip from another coach about Newman and began recruiting him via Zoom during the early stages of the pandemic back in 2020. He doesn't have a big, rugged frame. He's not a lights-out three-point marksman, but he compensates with speed, vision, and selfless approach that is becoming increasingly rare in a me-first generation of athletes. Here's what Webster said about Newman. He cares strictly and only about winning. People gravitate towards him because he's just a warm-hearted, good-spirited kid. Those talented guys around him at San Diego State will really like playing with him because he'll always sacrifice himself for his teammates, and that will connect amongst them. He truly is a pass-first guy. Brian Dutcher talks about the importance of the talent, but also the importance of fit. You're going to bring back Reese Waters. You're bringing back Miles Bird. You're bringing back Magoon Gwath. You added a point guard in Sean Newman Jr. And the Aztecs, just like that, have started a retool for 2025-2026. Not a bad pickup for San Diego State in the point guard. Again, they don't have that three-point shooter. They don't have that lights-out shooter. They don't have that, really big presence in the paint, which is going to be hard to come by in the transfer portal. But San Diego State making some noise in the transfer portal, making some noise with NIL. They've raised money. The Mesa Foundation's done a great job, and it's a good job by Aztec fans to continue to pump into that system to keep their teams good and keep some of their better players. I mean, a mid-major program keeping some of their best players is remarkable in this day and age of college athletics. So use that loss to North Carolina and see what this team's got. If they can return a lot of pieces from last year, which it looks like they're going to, San Diego State's going to be in a good position to do some damage in the Mountain West in what will probably be their final year of the Mountain West Conference. It's good news for San Diego State. It got overshadowed by the Jackson Merrill news this week, but great news for San Diego State. Things are looking up for San Diego sports right now. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the Cubs this weekend, plus Padres and Dodgers in rare company. Sarah Langs has an interesting stat about the Padres and the Dodgers in their starts to the season. And coming up a little bit later to finish the show, brand new USD women's basketball head coach Blanche Alverson will join us on the Braden Surprenant Show. Get to know the new women's basketball coach in town. All coming up next to finish up our work week on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 119 on a Thursday. Had the roundtable earlier this morning. Again, if you want to check out any of the San Diego Padres roundtable, you can check it out on our podcast page at the Braden Surprenant Show. You can find that wherever you get your podcast. You want to listen to it in an audio setting. It was me, Ben Woods, and Paul, Matt, Scraby, and Chrisello on the roundtable, discussing a lot of interesting topics of Padres baseball. Again, they start the season 7-0 and a great start to their 2025 campaign, on top of the fact that they have signed Jackson Merrill to a contract extension. It's been a great week for the San Diego Padres, trying to make that, again, another good week in week 2. They will have the Cubs open. They will be the opponent for the Cubs opening day tomorrow at 11:20 a.m. Pacific time, which means we will not have a show tomorrow. It's going to be the Equal Water SoCal Padres pregame show at 10:20, leading you into first pitch of Padres baseball at 11:20 between Padres and Cubs. Imanaga is getting the start for Chicago. Randy Vasquez on the hill for San Diego. Randy Vasquez actually didn't pitch that poorly at Wrigley Field last year. They ended up losing the game. He gave up the bomb, the one run that he allowed in that game, but it wasn't actually that great. It wasn't that poor of an outing. And he had to deal with some serious wind up there in the Windy City, which, again, it has nothing to do with the weather in Chicago. Ben learned that today for the first time. But anyway, that will be tomorrow. So we'll be off tomorrow, and then we'll be back on Monday, hopefully talking about a Padres series win against the Chicago Cubs, leading you into what could be a home run derby for the Padres next week. We're talking about small sample sizes. And, at the beginning of the season, there's only 7 games. Individually for players, we're talking about that. Torpedo bats, we're talking about that. But even at the same time, it's the first 3 games that Sacramento has hosted Major League Baseball games. And the A's, in which the Padres will play Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, have only played 3 games so far at home. Those games at home have been, I don't know, the home run derby? These are the scores for the first 3 games in Sacramento. Cubs swept the A's, by the way, after going 2-2 against the Diamondbacks and losing both games to the Dodgers. And the Cubs are going to be a pretty good team to deal with if you're the Padres. I think the Cubs are going to win the National League Central, especially with the Brewers not really being part of the conversation. I'm not a big believer in the Cardinals either. Cardinals beat up on the Twins in the opening weekend, and then the Angels took their lunch this week. Took 2 out of 3. Could have swept the Cardinals. They were up late, and then the Cardinals had a big rally inning against the Halos. But not that great a competition for the Cubs, in my opinion, in the division. But against the A's in the first 3 games in Sacramento for Major League Baseball, game 1 was 18-3, and the Cubs got a cycle in that game. 21 combined runs in the first game. The low-scoring game was 7-4. 11 runs in game 2 combined. And then in game 3 combined 12 runs as the Cubs went on to beat the A's 10-2. Maybe it's the Cubs. Maybe it's the fact that the new ballpark plays like a hitter's park. Carson Kelly hit for the cycle in that game. 18-3 victory for the Cubs in game 1 of the series against Oakland or Sacramento. I'm going to say that 1,000 times. Home runs hit in the game. Kelly had 1. Swanson had 1. Tucker had 1. Bush had 1. And then the other home runs hit, Wilson had 1 for the A's. That's in game 1. Home run derby in the first game between the Cubs and the A's. In game 2 between the Cubs and the A's. Again, looking at the box score, it's the same deal. Tucker had another home run. Suzuki had a home run. Rooker had a home run. Langoliers had a home run. There's 4 more home runs hit in game 2, and that was the low-scoring affair in Sacramento. And then game 3, in a 10-2 victory for the Cubs over the A's, more home runs being hit at Sutter Park in Sacramento. Rooker had another one for the A's, a 2-run homer to give them their only 2 runs of the game. Suzuki hit 2 home runs. Be ready to pad the home run stats in Sacramento next week if you're the San Diego Padres. Insane. Let's talk about the Padres and the Dodgers being part of this elite company right now. And Sarah Langs on Slangs on Sports on Twitter, who does a lot of writing for MLB.com as well, found some interesting nuggets. Southern California is the place to be in baseball right now with the Padres and Dodgers. This is the 5th season where multiple teams started 7-0 or better. It happened in 2003 with the Royals and Giants. Royals went 9-0 and the Giants went 7-0. Before that, it was in 1982 with the Braves going 13-0 and the White Sox going 8-0. In 1962, the Pirates went 10-0 and the Cardinals went 7-0. And way back in 1884, St. Louis Maroons were 20-0 and the New York Gothams were 12-0. It's the first time 2 teams in the same division have both been at least 7-0 since divisional play began in 1969. That means we've never seen a division start this way, but we also have more playoff spots than ever, which hopefully means a deserving team won't miss out. The World Series and official postseason history began in 1903, so with apologies to our friends from 1884 who are automatically excluded, none of the previous teams reached the Fall Classic. The only ones to even reach the playoffs were the Giants and the Braves. But none of these happened with the benefit of the current playoff format, and more importantly, none were the 2025 Dodgers, first reigning champions to start 8-0 and just second to open 7-0, or the 2025 Padres off to by far the best start in franchise history. Time to see how it all plays out. The bad news for the Padres is when you look at the standings and you look at the overall standings, the top 3 teams in Major League Baseball are the Dodgers, the Padres, and the Giants. They all happen to be in the same division. And not too much further down the list are the Arizona Diamondbacks, who might be in that category a little bit further as well, just because they might be able to beat the Yankees again tonight. Padres, for some reason, it just seems like every time San Diego is good in something, there has to be like these teams that are the best team ever assembled. 1984 was the best Tigers team they've ever had in the history of the Tigers. Phenomenal team that year. And 1998, it's arguably the best Yankees team that was ever around. I'm sure Adam Paul will disagree because he likes to disagree with everybody in the chat. And he is the resident Yankees fan. But that 1998 team was probably one of the best teams. And then you look at, the Chargers had to go against probably the best San Francisco 49ers teams of all time in a real pre-salary cap era. And so now you got the Padres off to their best start ever, and you run in and you got the Dodgers at 8-0 to start the season, who's arguably another one of those teams that is one of the best teams ever. Padres and Cubs will be underway tomorrow at 11:20. Imanaga will start game 1 for Chicago against your San Diego Padres. He is their ace, and so it might be a tough game for the Padres tomorrow. I think we talked about it. If the Padres are going to lose their first game, that might be the game that they lose. But that's going to be game 1 of the series again tomorrow at 11:20. We'll see how the Padres do. When we come back, we're going to be joined by the brand new head coach of the USD women's basketball team, Blanche Alverson, being introduced earlier today. She'll be with us to finish off the week as we continue on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 6:34 on a Thursday. Padres off day, so we kind of talk a lot of other sports today as well. Padres off to a 7-0 start to the season. It's a great start to the year, and it's been great. It's been a great week for San Diego sports fans. Magoon Gwath is coming back for San Diego State if he doesn't get drafted, which I don't think he will, but we'll see. Sounds like Miles Bird's going to be back for San Diego State. They went out and got some pieces in the portal. Aztecs trending in the right direction for basketball. You look at the Padres off to a 7-0 start, and Jackson Merrill signs his contract extension, and hopefully the good times continue to roll with that. We talked with Mark Neville earlier in the show about the Rady Children's basketball tournament that will happen over the Thanksgiving holiday next year, and some pretty good teams that are in that as well. And it's good times for San Diegans right now when it comes to sports in San Diego. And with that, we do have some other news involving San Diego local universities and everything like that. The University of San Diego has announced a brand new women's basketball coach who was named the 4th head coach in San Diego women's basketball history. They had a nice little press conference get together today. She was a multi-scholar athlete as a member of the Auburn Tigers, as a college athlete, actually participated in State Farm 3-point championship contestant as well. She comes over from Georgia Tech as an associate head coach for the last couple of years, has had great experience at the college level when it comes to women's basketball, and is now officially the 4th head coach in San Diego women's basketball coaching history. Her name is Blanche Alverson. She joins me now on the Braden Surprenant Show. Blanche, welcome to San Diego. Congratulations on the new job.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, and I really appreciate you having me on today.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny how the world works, but immediately when you come to San Diego, it sounds like you were introduced to a fellow Surprenants at Enterprise to get your rental car.
I was. I did get to meet a fellow fan and a relative of yours, if I remember correctly.
That is correct. My brother hooked you up. So hopefully he helped you out over there before your first couple of days here in San Diego. Keep it on the family side of things. I have to ask to get things started, and we'll dive into your basketball career and everything like that. You go. Your name's Virginia, but you go by Blanche. Your sister's name is Stella. Were your parents super into A Streetcar Named Desire? What's going on with some of the character names of a book that I had to read in high school?
Ironically enough, all of my siblings in my name, they're all family names, and so it just happens to work out that way. But yeah, it is a little fun fact that we are the characters of A Streetcar Named Desire. Also a Golden Girl and Blanche, and so there's so many different things. But no, all of our family names are family names, and we were all named after our great grandparents and our grandparents.
That's a cool story. It's a lot better than just being character names from a long-time novel. Blanche Alverson joins us on the Braden Surprenant Show. She's a brand new women's basketball coach at the University of San Diego. Grew up in Andalusia, Alabama, small town of Alabama on the south side of the state, just above the Florida Panhandle. It's where you started your basketball career as a player. What was it like growing up in small town Alabama before, obviously progressing to the career you have now?
Absolutely. I'm really thankful for my upbringing and being able to be raised in a small town. I think it allowed me to do a lot of different things and be involved in a community that was very tight knit and still my family still lives back in Andalusia. And so it is great to come home to sometimes like a Hallmark movie, I say, because we'll go around and I come back in town and I see everyone I've ever met, my first grade teacher, the person at the bank. So, I mean, it is a small, quaint community, and but very thankful for my time there. And I think one, it also opened up doors for me in terms of wanting to have dreams and aspirations of going and playing collegiate basketball and playing professional basketball. And I think it's really special to have a community behind you, and they've been phenomenal just in supporting me along my journey.
You started off in Andalusia for your first couple of years of high school basketball. You moved to Georgia, and you move on to what a lot of accolades for high school basketball in the state of Georgia. At what point during your career did you realize basketball, could take you to the next level from a playing side before you even thought about being a coach?
Pretty early, honestly. I think I fell in love with basketball playing, just literally playing outside with my older brother. And no one else in my family played basketball. My mom's brother did, but I grew up playing with my brother and playing in the yard with him. And I was always tall. I was always taller than all of my friends and all my teammates. So I knew pretty early on I would have maybe an opportunity. I just didn't know how much. And so my parents were very influential and just amazing at opening doors for me and driving 2 hours to practice outside of our small town. And then we ended up making a move to the Atlanta area. I was playing for an organization and a club team there previously. So, we just knew the amount of basketball and just the education just in general. My mom's an educator. So, my sister my sister and I got great high school education at Buford High School. And, it was a big jump. I think for us, I knew then that I would, I knew I wanted basketball to be a huge part of my life. And it did open doors up for me to be able to continue to have a great college career.
Blanche Alverson, who joins us right now on the Braden Surprenant Show, the brand new head coach for the San Diego women's basketball program, being introduced earlier today at the Jenny Craig Pavilion. But to talk about your high school career, it's led to your college career, obviously, as a player before we dive into you as a coach. But you mentioned family earlier. I mean, you guys are all named family names. And that was probably the reason why you ended up probably attending Auburn, right? Fourth generation Auburn Tiger. Was there any other school that rivaled the Tigers, or when you got that offer, it was a foregone conclusion you were going to go, chant War Eagle finally with the rest of your family?
I did grow up an Auburn fan. I think the world assumed that's where I would end up. I actually didn't even know that myself. I was trying to do something different than the family at that point in time. But when it came down to making a decision, I knew I wanted to be close to my family and my family be able to support me and come to games. And it was a team that I grew up, supporting my entire life. And my brother was a senior in college there at the time as well. So it was a special time for me to be able to go and play, to play at a university that was so close to us. But yeah, I think as Nell Fortner, who I worked for and played for, she said she always knew I was coming, but I don't know if I was always so sure.
Well, we'll talk about her, and we're talking about them in just a little bit in just a little bit. But I got this from my brother. You were mentioning it, but he went to Tennessee, so you had to bring up Pat Summitt. I know you got to play against her as a coach, which was probably a great experience for you. But what were some of the great memories for you at Auburn, and at what point during your playing career, because I know you went on to play a little bit professionally as well, did you think about being a coach?
Yeah, so I think playing, I had a phenomenal college experience. And so being able to play at Auburn, I think it did end up being really special to me. And I think some of my most special days were actually maybe even days that weren't even related to basketball, or, being involved on campus and having a student life experience and while winning some games as well. I mean, Pat Summitt being on the sidelines, knowing who you were, I think was a pretty special. But I played for a legendary coach in Nell Fortner, and she's an Olympic coach and things like that. I think more than anything, I think just learning and playing at the highest level. I think also I started to see that maybe I could play professionally as my career advanced and just competing at that level. And, I don't know if I really thought about coaching until I was playing professionally, truly. But I think it's always been a passion of mine, and I always enjoyed camps and things like that growing up, and coaching and helping and different things like that. But I think I really decided it, was going to be one of my passions as I played professionally, and then tried to figure out what was going to come after that.
So you played for Nell Fortner at Auburn, and then you end up getting to work with her at Georgia Tech. What was the experience like for you, being somebody to play for somebody and then coach with them? I've had that experience coaching high school football here in town, but obviously at a high level, it's a little bit different. What was the experience for you, and what a cool experience that might've been?
Yeah, I think it is special when you can work for the coach that you played for. You just have a different kind of trust, I think, and a different kind of understanding of kind of backgrounds and knowing where you come from. And, she recruited me and right when she got to Auburn, and, from that point, our relationship has really been phenomenal. She afforded me a lot of opportunity at Georgia Tech and allowed me to kind of grow and grow as a coach and as a person. And, I do think there's a special dynamic when you get to continue to have a lifelong relationship, and you're able to work together, because it didn't really always feel like work, right? Like we were in it together, and we had a couple of special moments throughout throughout our time, and being able to go to Sweet 16 and NCAA tournaments. And, I was on when she stepped away from coaching when I was a junior at Auburn. And so, that was the last team she coached there. And then being able to be on the sidelines with her when she came back at Georgia Tech was pretty special.
Joined by Blanche Alverson. She is the now 4th head coach in San Diego women's basketball history. Just got announced earlier today, for the University of San Diego. With your time at Georgia Tech, obviously as an assistant and then up to an associate head coach, talk to us about how this came about. What came to the decision that you wanted to go, pursue being a head coach? How did the opportunity arise with the University of San Diego? And, even though you got to wait for the offer, eventually, when you make these decisions, I mean, you have to choose to come here to San Diego. So what drew you to this job?
Yeah, I think more than anything, starting this process, I was so impressed with Kimya and Allie Gibson and our administration here at San Diego, and just how the passion they have for the university. And obviously San Diego is a destination and one of the best places to visit in the world. So I think that alone speaks for itself. But I always wanted, to work at high academic institutions and places where they really care about the people around them. And San Diego checked all those boxes for me personally. And I truly do feel like it was a great fit for me. And as I continued to get to know the vision and the mission of the university, as well as the athletic department and for women's basketball, I knew I had a phenomenal opportunity at hand.
Obviously, the situations with college athletics right now and the ever-changing landscape, and we've talked to athletic directors on the show and other coaches about how they try to, manage that. And here in San Diego, with 3 Division I schools in town, makes it even more difficult in trying to establish NIL and recruiting and everything like that. What are some of the challenges that you already know you're going to have to face here at the University of San Diego as you try to build the program back up to what it was at one point that wasn't too long ago? So with everything that's going around with college athletics, what can you tell San Diego fans and people in San Diego what this women's basketball team is going to be about?
I think too, one of the best things is like the challenges or opportunities. I think that's how I'm a super optimistic person. I think this is a phenomenal, there's a lot of potential here and a lot of room for growth. And I think that's an opportunity, right? So I'm excited to get on the floor with the players and get to know our players and build intentional relationships and have a lot of transparency as we go through this process. But it's going to be about the day-to-day process. And I want to bring an exciting brand of basketball. I think basketball has changed and over time, and it's one of those things that I could really nerd out about a little bit about kind of just different directions and styles of play. But no, I'm excited to bring an exciting style. We're going to play up tempo, play fast, but also too we're going to get in the community and be in the community and create an atmosphere at these games that people want to come and come out to. So can't wait to have everyone come to our games this season and be a part of this program as we continue to build it.
And we look forward to seeing the progress of that. And Blanche, we really appreciate you joining us today. Thanks a lot. I'm sure I'll get to know you over there at USD at some capacity with your games in the fall. But thanks again for the time. Good luck and congratulations on the brand new gig.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Can't wait. Go Toreros.
Blanche Alverson, the new head coach of the women's basketball program at the University of San Diego, joining us on the Braden Surprenant show. So again, we got some Southern names in there. That's why, not the streetcar named Desire, although that's kind of funny in the sense. I had to be able to, I had to know. I just had to know. But anyway, I'm thinking about, had to sneeze, didn't have to sneeze, have to sneeze. Excuse me. Got that out of the way. Exciting. And that's the kind of the coaching staffs that they have put together over there at the University of San Diego, that ultimate, positive light, and a lot of different coaching tidbits I get back all the time just by working with some of the coaches there at the University of San Diego. I do like, I've been using this one that Brock Ungerich uses a lot, the difference between have to and get to, changing the mind frame a lot on things that you have to do, say you get to do them. And Blanche kind of alluded to that with the challenges that she gets to face. The challenges are opportunities. And they got a lot of challenges at the University of San Diego for women's basketball, trying to, build back after 2 rough seasons in terms of the record and with other teams in town. I mean, the ever-changing landscape of college athletics has been the topic of discussion for the last year and a half, not only on our show, but on a lot of different shows when it comes to, talking to people like Mark Neville that are trying to put on events and bring local colleges, or should I say other colleges, here to San Diego from a tourism standpoint. From, talking with Earl Edwards, the athletic director at UCSD, who's trying to establish themselves as an athletic institution just as much as an academic institution, and what they've done in transitioning into D1. And Kimya Massey, who's the athletic director at the University of San Diego, trying to make a footprint for USD athletics when you have, especially down the street in a bigger school in San Diego State, who has just made it to the Final Four in basketball a couple years ago. Interesting to see. But as Adam Paul said in the chat, it's excited to see new life, breathe into the women's basketball program at USD, a program that was, doing a lot of great things. And it just started to fall off there near the end, and they obviously had to make a change, and Blanche Alverson's fired up to do it, and we thank her a lot for coming on and joining us on her first radio interview here in town. And what a small world. First interactions with San Diego, she gets to deal with my brother and renting a car at Enterprise. Just hilarious world that we live in. Padres baseball off to a 7-0 start. As we mentioned before, they got a series against the Chicago Cubs coming up this weekend. Starts tomorrow. We will be off tomorrow because of the Padres playing earlier than usual. It's opening day for Chicago, and it will be a 11:20 first pitch for the Padres and the Chicago Cubs, which means the Ecowater SoCal Padres pregame show will be on at 10:20 with Sam Levitt. So Benton Woods will go a little bit longer than they usually do on Friday, and will lead you into the pregame show before the Padres take on the Chicago Cubs. On Saturday, we'll have your coverage for Padres baseball, again, with the times being a little bit different over the weekend. It's 11:20 start time again. I think it might be for the whole weekend. Nick Pivetta is going for the Padres against Matthew Boyd of Chicago. That will be Saturday's game with the Ecowater SoCal Padres pregame show at 10:20. Yeah, all 11:20 start times this weekend on the north side of Chicago. And then on Sunday, same thing. It will be an 11:20 start in the morning. Padres and Cubs. Kyle Hart getting the start for San Diego at 1-0, the 3.60 ERA. And then it will be Ben Brown for the Cubs, who's 1-1 with a 5.87 ERA. Got to take 2 out of 3 this weekend over the Cubs. I mean, we can. I like the continuation of the undefeated streak. It's fun. It's cool to talk about. I mean, eventually they're going to lose. I don't think the Padres going 13-0 is going to curse them from making the World Series either, just because the other team that did it did not make it in the World Series. It doesn't really mean anything. And we've talked about that. Adam and I were talking about that off air about the Braves. I mean, they've started the season 0-7. But if they beat the Marlins, in 3 games over the weekend and are 3-7, what's the difference if they started the season 3-7, 0-7 into 3-0, or like if they went 4-3 and then lost their next, or went 3-4 and then lost their their next 3 games. I mean, you're still at a point where you're 3-7. So again, it's not you can't over analyze the beginning week of the Padres season or the season in general. But that being said, I mean, it's cool that your first 7 games, you're 7-0. And we'll see what the Padres got in store for the Cubs this weekend in Chicago. Again, tomorrow I think is a tough game for San Diego with Vazquez going against Imanaga, who is their ace. But that being said, we'll see what they got. Padres I like their unity. I like the way they're playing together. So that will do it for me for the week. I'll talk to you guys again on Monday as we recap the Padres-Cubs series and start talking about the A's and the Padres in Sacramento. We had the roundtable on earlier today. If you want to check that out, check it out in podcast form. It will be replayed in the 5 o'clock hour. Alden Gonzalez will join Gwen and Chris later on in the show. They're coming up next. I'm Braden Surprenant. This has been the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.